The patrol crossed a difficult obstacle and moved rapidly deep into hostile territory where the enemy situation was obscure. So start this whole thing. You start off by going into enemy territory, and in order to get into enemy territory, you're going across a freaking river. We better have a damn good plan. We don't know what the enemy situation is up there. And how deep are we going to go? Like, you know what you do in a situation like that, Equitas? You put really good fire support on one side of the river and say, all right, guys, you're going to go across. Go ahead. If something happens, we got you. We got mortars. We got heavy machine guns. We'll be able to get you back. And by the way, we're going to put a rope around the first guy. So when you go across the river, if something happens, we're going to pull you right back. That's cover and move, by the way. Yeah. And then you don't go on a lengthy patrol without good support. There was apparently very little reconnaissance on the part of the patrol, and it was unaware of the enemy strength in the immediate vicinity. The patrol was of sufficient strength to fight its way out against a superior number of enemy, but when control was lost and the patrol was disorganized and split up, it was susceptible to defeat in detail. And just check this out. If you were on patrol with me, and you saw me give you a hand signal, like to go out, set up push out a little bit further, and you saw another hand signal with me, from me, there would be no part of your brain that would be thinking I would be telling you to split forces and go back to base. No part of your brain would think that. You would know that I would want to stick together. You would know that. Everyone would know that. Everyone on the team would think, hey, the only way we're splitting forces if Jocko comes over and looks at me and says, hey, we're splitting forces. Here's the new plan. Other than that, we're sticking together. That's like an implied commander's intent from me, always. We are sticking together. We'll cover and move for each other for sure, but we're not going to get separated where we can't mutually support each other. That's not a good thing ever. So what kind of implied intent do you have with your team in your organization that people know what to do and they won't make mistakes like this?
So essentially, are you saying, like your example, where that's such a rigid rule that you have, and it's it would be established,
like established,
like that's kind of the ether.
Like if Leif heard me on the radio say like split force, he wouldn't be like, hey, Jocko just told me to split force. He'd be like, wait, something's wrong.
Yeah, that can't be.
It wouldn't make sense to him.
Gotcha.
He'd be like, okay, hey, Jocko, say again. Hey, Jocko, I'm going to come and talk to you because if you've never remotely said anything like, hey, let's split up and see how we do.
Right.
Let's get for me to say, hey, set up a good cover position. Cool, all day long. Provide cover, move to high ground, any of those things. But to say split forces, it would be he would ask questions.
Right. And you're saying that's because there are certain things that are, when you said implied, right? But there's certain things that are just, this is what we're starting at.
And let me tell you what one of them is. Cover and move. Yeah. If you get, cover and move is what I live by. It's a first law of combat, right? First law of combat is cover and move. If I'm telling you to go away from me, we can't cover and move anymore. And Leif hears that and goes, wait a second, Jocko doesn't want me to cover and move. That's crazy. Something's going on that I need to understand, or it's a miscommunication. Yeah. He's not like, oh, cool, later. Right. No, it violates one of the principles of combat leadership, and it's not going to happen. So what are those principles inside your organization? Right. Do you have them established correctly that people know what to do? And if a weird signal comes through, they go, wait a second, what are you talking about? This doesn't make any sense. You know, like Dave Burke gets a request from a client.
Dave?
Yeah. You know, and I say, don't give the client any support. Like he'd say, wait a second, no, something's going on here. You know, something's not clear. There's a miscommunication because we're here to support our clients. We're here to teach them leadership. Yeah. We're here to give them all the leadership tools that we can. So, and Dave knows that implicitly. So if I all of a sudden say, don't give them any support, he'd be, wait a second, I gotta go talk to Jocko about there's something going on.
Yeah, kind of like if you lost your temper on somebody, it would be like,
something would be confusing.
It wouldn't compute, right? Really. You'd be like, oh, that must be like a demonstration or something, you know?
Check. Before we jump to this next section, that section right there was the section that I kind of wanted to, that kind of caught me because it's a very good debrief of a little, you read about big battles, and we've covered many big battles, and of course we get the gist of the battle, or we get the experience of battle from one man's vision. But to get an after action debrief like that, and you can imagine how this is just one little tiny example, and that's why when I started this thing off and I said, why do I cover these? Because I never heard these lessons. Every freaking military leader should read that after action report where a bunch of guys get killed, a bunch of guys get wounded. Why does it happen? It's so clear why it happens. They give you the reasons. You have multiple chains of command. You have guys splitting forces. There's unclear communication. Like, you should know these things. You should get taught these things. And look what else you're facing out there. You got your enemy, right? What else you got?
The river.
The river. Oh, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but people drowned.
Yeah.
This ain't like a little stream. This is a river where people drowned.
Yeah. And that's the kind of the assumption for us outsiders where, we think of, they got this many guys on their side and we got this many guys, but we got this and we got that. Like, we have these tanks or we got it's like kind of nuts against nuts kind of a thing. But you consider, no, there's like, we need food. We need to get across that river.
Yeah.
All this stuff that's kind of like
the jungle. The jungle, just getting through there.
Yeah.
What about our weapons? They're getting, sand in them. They're getting mud in them. It's raining.
Yeah.
Where our feet are rotting. We're starving, by the way. We need water. We have dysentery. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
And by the way, there's a bunch of Japanese suicidal fighters that want to kill us all.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember Saving Private Ryan, right? Where they kind of, they come up on the beach and, guys are jumping in the water or whatever. And then a couple guys, they just drowned. Like, it's like, when you see that opening shot and you consider it in real life or whatever, it's kind of like, okay, what are we about to get into? This is going to be scary. Machine guns, freaking Germans, bombs, all this stuff, right? Yep. But then, wait a second. What about the actual water we have to go through? Like, that's going to kill some of us.
And imagine this. You go and you make a movie and you actually go into the horror and panic of each individual that jumps into the water with 64 pounds of gear. They're not a great swimmer. They go to the bottom, panicking, fighting, and drowning and dying a horrible death. And that's happening all over the place on that day. And then meanwhile, if you survive, if you somehow get your shit together and get your gear off, and now you get to the beach, you're getting freaking strafed by enemy elevated, bunkered machine gun positions.
Yeah.